I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Okay, I'd like to get started, please. Hello, folks. Let's settle in here now, please. Okay, let's take your seats. Take your seats, please. Okay. Okay, all right. Guys, let's settle in, please. Okay. All right, folks, we want to get started here, so please take your seats. All right. All right. Good evening. I'm Pete Scheibner, the chairman of the Rockland County Sports Hall of Fame, welcoming you to our 52nd season of honoring great athletes, coaches, and teams in Rockland County. Congratulations to each of our honorees, a stellar class of inductees covering the 1920s through the 1990s. This is our 7th year that we are honoring teams. If you take a look at your book, the program book, if you look at page 4 through 6, you'll see the list of all the past inductees and teams. So it's worth your look. Okay, the evolution of having a second induction ceremony was a brainchild of Vinny Shortino, who's here tonight. He's our vice chairman. It is specifically for honoring teams and coaches as well as individual athletes who typically cannot attend our April induction. Before we start, I would like to recognize our past inductees and our Hall of Fame board members. So I'm going to go through a list. I'm not sure that everyone is here, but if not, and if I'm missing anybody, please let me know. So we have Chuck Mays, who's here. He's North Rockland Hall of Fame board member. Phil Donnelly, is Phil here? Okay, if Phil's not here, or if he comes later, we'll certainly recognize him. Okay, Jamie Kempton, of course. Jamie, Albertus Magnus, and the Rockland County Sports Hall of Fame. Then we have Kurt Lundgren. Kurt, okay, Kurt's also Nanuet Hall of Fame, and he's our board secretary. Jerry Kapuzinski, is Jerry here? Hey Jerry, how you doing? Good to see you. And his son Sean. Sean's also a Hall of Famer. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tommy Collins, is Tommy Collins here, or he had to beg off? Okay. Yeah, we're sorry that he can't make it tonight. Bill White's here, of course. Bill. And then Tommy Doherty, I believe, will be showing up shortly. Tommy does a wonderful job getting this thing underway and reaching out to so many people. So I think he's going to be coming around halftime. Okay, as far as board members, directors, we have Alan Veltiti, who's here tonight. Alan. He also represents his brother Bob and Uncle Victor, who are both in the Hall of Fame. We have Vin Shortino, of course, vice chairman. John Ryan. John Ryan's been here. Okay, John, good to see you. Bill Rupert. Bill, there you are. Good to see you. Steve DeGantic. Where's Steve? Hey, Steve. Okay. Is Ray Kondracki here? Okay, Ray's not here. Okay, Julia is here, Julia Adler. Pete Castellano. Pete, you're here. Okay. Okay, Pat Dizzini. Here's Pat. And Jerry Kleiman. Jerry, good to see you. Okay, one of the things in your journal, if you take a look at the journal, please, on page 52, we have an in-memory section. And we sadly note the passing of two outstanding Hall of Famers, Hank Kapazinski, Haverstraw 1959, records-setting running back with 26 touchdowns from 1956 to 1958. At Rhode Island, University of Rhode Island, he earned All East and All Yankee Conference recognition. In addition, we also lost William Gibby Sweet of Pearl River, 1968. He was a New York State wrestling champion, All-American at RCC. Gibby was a member of our board of directors for over 20 years and past chairman of the Pearl River Sports Hall of Fame. Hank and Gibby exemplified true service to both sports and community, and we will certainly miss them. Please join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of Hank and Gibby. Okay, thank you so much. One of the things we'd like to have you look at our website. We have a very good website, www.rcshf.org, to view the bios that we have of all of our inductees. The website also includes enshrinement requirements for selection, as well as nomination portal for future candidates and teams. We very much look forward to seeing many of you at our upcoming 53rd annual induction, which will be held on Sunday, April 14th, 2024 at Paramount Country Club in New City. I'm sorry, 26. Okay, 26, okay. Before we get started, I would like to present a plaque to Pete Castellano. Pete, are you there? Okay, Pete was a longtime treasurer of our organization. He served 23 years of dedicated and devoted service as treasurer, and he will continue to stay on the board, but you did outstanding work. So, Pete, thanks so much. Thank you so much. We were going to give that to you back in April, but I figured we could tell you do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, in honoring each of the inductees and teams, we plan to allocate about 30 minutes to each honoree so that we can end the ceremony before 10 p.m. In the first half of the program, we start with Joseph Lynch and then honor the 1974 Albertus Magnus Boys Cross Country team. We will take about a 30 to 40 minute buffet break at halftime and then open the second half by honoring Suffern coach Mickey DeSimone and then finishing the awards evening with the 1996-97 Suffern wrestling team. So we'll get started right now, and this is Joe Lynch. Joe Lynch was a two-time bantamweight champion of the world. This honor would never have happened had it not been for the research of Jerry Kleiman, who's here tonight. With us this evening and his grandniece Gail Zara and her family, along with grandnephews John and Jerry Lynch. They're at this table. And we also have the support, which we thank of the New City Fire Department, which is here as well, some fire folks. So thank you so much for coming out. So to get started, Jerry Kleiman will discuss Joe Lynch's extraordinary boxing career and life in New City. So Jerry.
Does this work? Do I have to hold the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you to the board for inviting me to speak about Joe. I'd like to welcome his nieces, nephews, and family. It's nice to see some of the descendants. After reading about him for years, we're getting close to the real thing, and it's pretty exciting for me to see you guys. And I'd like to thank everybody else for attending today. My name is Jerome Kleiman. People call me Jerry. And a year ago, I wrote an article about Joe Lynch that appeared in a column that I have in the Rockland County Times. It's called Our Forgotten But Notable Neighbors. And at the time, it would have been hard for me to imagine that I would be speaking to you today to induct Joe into the Hall of Fame. But what happened was that was the first article that I had written for the Rockland County Times, and I had a feeling that nobody noticed it. And then I found out that a fellow named Jamie Kempton had read it, and he contacted me. Somebody reads newspapers. And coincidentally, he was a sports writer for the local newspaper that I used to follow for years. So knowing that he paid attention to my article was very complimentary. But he got in touch with Pete Scheibner and told him about Joe Lynch. And I guess neither of her had heard about Joe Lynch before. And they say, whoa, this is something that right up our alley. And here you are today. And for me, it was very fulfilling. To write an article today, nobody reads newspapers anymore. And it sort of encouraged me to continue writing. And I've continued to write another 10 articles about people like Joe Lynch that pretty much have been forgotten. So the situation was that I had decided that I wanted to write about Joe Lynch. I knew about him. I had always been interested in boxing as a kid. I'm not a kid anymore. I was a kid a long time ago when people like Joe Lynch were still sort of discussed. I used to read Grant Lynn Rice and people like that, great sports writers. And the name Joe Lynch came up. It was a bantamweight. And in the 60s and so on, people really didn't pay that much attention to bantamweights. They were too scrawny, too little, and there weren't too many Americans that weighed 118 pounds anymore. But in the 1920s and 19-teens, people weren't so big. I don't know if they could go to the supermarket and buy as much food. So they were pretty skinny, and there were a lot of American bantamweights. And actually, people loved to watch the bantamweight fighters more than the heavyweights at that time, except for a fellow named Jack Dempsey. I guess you might have heard of him. Anybody ever hear of Jack Dempsey? Okay. So Joe Lynch was part of the era, the great golden age of boxing, when Jack Dempsey was a champion. And when Jack Dempsey was the heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Lynch was the bantamweight champion of the world. And people all over the world, and I'm not just talking about locally and so on, they would follow boxing. It was in the newspapers every day. So if Joe Lynch would have a fight, people in British Columbia and Melbourne, Australia would know about it. But when I was talking to people about Joe Lynch, I found out that he actually had worked over in New City as a postmaster. I said, wow, there's something here. I asked people in the neighborhood, nobody knew who he was. So that sort of encouraged me. I said, okay, this is a guy that people have to know about. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the weeds about Joe's career. If you want to read more about it, there's quite a bit in the journal that you have in front of you. But he had over 160 fights, professional fights, that are listed, okay? He probably had a lot more. I know that in an interview he said he had between 200 and 300 fights. Now, a few little details about that. He had never been knocked out, okay? Never been counted out to the count of 10, never was TKO'd with a cut, or never had to have a referee intervene to rescue him. So that's very rare. Even in today's age, when people fight 30 fights, 40 fights, and they call it a career, he was fighting five times as many fights. He was fighting the best fighters in the world, and he never got knocked out. So I don't know if it runs in the family in the Lynches. Anybody over there get knocked out lately? Not lately. Okay. All right. All right. We'll see later if you can take a punch. So, on the other hand, although he could take a punch, he could also give a punch, and he was considered one of the greatest knockout fighters in the bantamweight division. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it, but bantamweight is 118 pounds. All right, so that's sort of, you don't look at those people as being very dangerous, but he could take you out with one punch. Joe was brought up on the West 47th Street, on the west side of Manhattan, in an area that's known as Hell's Kitchen, a neighborhood. He was a scrawny Irish kid, and in those days, the beginning of the 20th century, he had very few choices. It was either fight or run or get your butt kicked. And he fought, and I don't think he got his butt kicked too much. And then when he learned realized that you could make money by fighting, he became a professional boxer at the age of 18. In 1916 it was, okay? And right away he was fighting 10-round fights. So he didn't start out with the 4 rounds, 6 rounds, 8 rounds. They put him against very good fighters, and he held his own. But he was also from a very good family, and he would discuss this quite often. He would help his father. They had a moving business. Even when he was a champion, he would work on the truck with his dad. He went to commercial high school at a time when going to high school was a pretty big deal. And this would serve him well later on in his life. He was good friends with Jack Dempsey, Tex Rickard, people like that. I don't know if any of you know about the history, but those are people that, Tex Rickard, for example, it was the promoter at Madison Square Garden. So if any of you have heard of the New York Rangers hockey team, okay, that's a little bit of a rhetorical question. So, but do you know why they're called the Rangers? I mean, they're not from Dallas, are they? So the reason why is that the hockey team was originally called Texas Rangers, named after Tex Rickard, and then eventually they called the team the New York Rangers. So, I mean, he was a big deal. He made boxing what it was and what it is. It took Joe 4 years to become the champion, 4 years of campaigning. And the only reason why I think it took him so long was that there was a little event that threw him off his trajectory, and that's known as World War I. In World War I, he joined the Army. He was in the combat engineers, fighting in France. And then he came back, he got married, he continued his career as a boxer. Joe was 5'8" tall and 118 pounds. People called him the human xylophone because you could see his ribs bursting through his skin. And Irish people sometimes have very, very light skin, so I mean you could basically see his ribs. And he fought very intelligently. He had a long reach. Most of the people that he would fight would be 5'2", 5'4", and he was 5'8", so he was like a real stream bean. But he had tremendous torque, tremendous power, and he was able to beat the best men in his division. He finally won the championship in 1920 on December 22nd. He won a 15-round decision in Madison Square Garden against a fellow named Pete Herman, who was the champion at the time. And just to show you what type of guy Joe Lynch was, he fought 14 of the 15 rounds with a broken left thumb. So he didn't quit, he just kept fighting, and he won a very clear decision. However, about a year later, he lost the decision to Herman in a rematch at Ebbets Field, where the Brooklyn Dodgers would play. And a little over a year after that, he won back the championship and held on to it for 2 years until 1924. He lost to a fellow named Abe Goldstein. And by that time, Joe was having problems making weight. So now he was probably walking around weight, probably 130 pounds. He was just what happens to all of us. He was expanding. And he was able to go into the steam room, and he got down to 118 pounds when he fought Goldstein, but he was basically depleted. So he fought, actually, there was something called the junior featherweight. It was 122 pounds. He fought this fellow, and unfortunately lost. And by that time, his career was winding down. Now, you may ask, why would he come up to New City, of all places in the world? In 1920, it was a farming community. He probably didn't know what a farm looked like. He didn't know a carrot from a tomato. And, suddenly winds up in New City, and that's it. So here's the story that he tells. When he lost to Pete Herman at Ebbets Field, he earned $37,500. That's a pretty big hunk of change in 1922, right? I don't know, was it like 20 or 40 or 50 to 1? Okay, so that would be one fight. Now, that was the purse for the whole, okay, and has to split it with his manager and so on and so forth. And then basically the manager gets the money, I guess. He went to his manager, a fellow named Eddie Mead, and he said, okay, there's the money. And then he said, oh, we got a little bit of a problem, Joe. He said, what's going on? He said, I bought you a farm. What? He said, yeah, somebody offered a farm, and I thought it would be a great idea for you in a place called New City, and now you own a farm, but you don't get the money. And Joe realized at the time that the deal was done. He couldn't get the money back. I guess he felt that he could kill Eddie Mead, but he decided that he didn't want to go to jail for the rest of his life. So instead, he came up to New City. And he realized that it wasn't such a bad place after all. So he had approximately 70 acres where the Seine building is, right off of New Hempstead Road by the county offices and whatever. And years later, he said that that was the best thing that ever happened to him, aside from marrying his wife. I think she was probably with him at the time that he said that, so you know how it is. You're all married. And he spent the next 40 years there until he passed away in 1965. But he did not, now Joe Lynch at the time retired, right? He retired. I guess a lot of you are retired. And when you think of retirement, you think of, okay, 65 years old and whatever, Social Security. No, Joe Lynch was retired, he was 28 years old. So he had a lot of energy, but he was out of his profession, the boxing profession. So he kept busy. He was a very good citizen. He was the ideal citizen, you might say. So what did he do? He became what was known as the foreman of the Fire Department, later to be known as the chief. He was known as the Fighting Fire Chief. There's a story that's told, I don't know if it's apocryphal, I don't know if it's true, but they said that, they used to hang out in the fire departments waiting for the fires to happen. In those days, the buildings were made out of wood, so maybe there were a little bit more fires than today. So they were on call, they were hanging around playing pinochle, and then some younger guy, I don't know exactly what Joe's age was, but some younger guy started to kibitz with him and give him a hard time. And then apparently the guy got a little bit aggressive. So Joe excused himself from the pinochle game, turned around, gave the guy one punch, flattened him, and then sat down and continued playing pinochle. So that was not a very good idea to mess with Joe, even if he was a little bit older. Among other things, Joe would, together with George M. Cohan, he would own the Elm Hotel, which was across the street from the courthouse on Main Street in New City. He was the president of the New City Democrat Club and the vice president of the County Democrat Club. At one time, he ran for state assembly but lost. He was also a deputy sheriff, and he continued to be involved in boxing in the county as a referee, and he would work with younger kids. He was also the postmaster of Rockland County, of New City, and he was a close friend with Big Jim Farley, who was the Postmaster General of the United States during the one of the terms of FDR. And Jim appointed him, Joe, as the postmaster. It was a position that he held for quite a long time. And now that you know a little bit about Joe Lynch, if you want more information about more details about his fights and et cetera and so forth, there's a lot of information, as I said, in the journal today. And in conclusion, I just want to say that I want to express my gratitude for Jamie for reading my article. And my articles come out once in a while, so maybe you should all read them once. Okay, the other thing is that I want to thank Pete for his diligence and hard work. Okay. Besides that, I want to express my gratitude for all of you coming here today to underscore the fact that Joseph Aloysius Lynch, alias Joe Lynch, is no longer a forgotten neighbor, and that he is getting his due recognition as a great athlete by the people that, if he were still alive today, he would call all of you his neighbors. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. If I could get the Lynch family up here, please. We have a plaque to distribute to you. Do you want to say a few words? want John to say a few words as well for Joe Lynch, please.
Hey everybody, I'm John. I'm Joe Lynch's grandnephew. I want to thank those of you who like we discovered, we just call him Uncle Joe. He was the pride and joy of North New City, my Joe Country Club. Every little kid in the neighborhood would come, they'd want a box. We had that photo on our wall. There was the very first diamond gold buckle that was given out that disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Probably wasn't, never mind. Jack has something to do with that. What was read about Uncle Joe, I've kind of known, only because he was my hero. When I moved into New York City, I left Rockland in 1980. I moved into New York to my older brother. I went to an Irish pub, the White Horse Tavern, a very well-famous bar. And when I bought the beers for the North baseball team and turned around, there was Uncle Joe. And I walked over and I kissed it, and I got in a shootload of trouble. And I never had to buy a beer in an Irish pub again because Uncle Joe was everywhere. The Irish loved him. Really, the only story you don't know is he bought the buildings where he met Anna. It became Joe Lynch Housing on 47th Street. And he was known that on rent day, if a single mother didn't have money, he would give what was called milk and cheese money to her. And I think that's what every parent wants their kid to be like. So he's our uncle. It warmed our hearts when I got the text from my sister, from Peter. I'm like, how the heck did they discover Uncle Joe in the article? So the fact that his name has been, Joe Aloysius Lynch has been mentioned a lot tonight is like really super cool. So for my family and my friends from Crosstown North, I'd like to say thank you.
Okay, folks, we're going to continue on here. We also, right now, we want to recognize the Albertus boys cross-country team. This is an outstanding team. They took second place in the country, if you can believe it. And I'd like to call on Ralph Coleman to speak on behalf of the team, and then he'll turn that over to Jamie Kempton, who will speak on the team and introduce the runners. So please welcome Ralph.
Thanks, Pete. I'm especially happy to be here tonight. I spent some years at Suffern High School and was witness to its many county, sectional, and state champions, especially those in wrestling. Mickey Desimone and I started together as the junior members of the history department before Mick moved over to guidance. His coaching record speaks for itself, but it was his finest time as a guidance counselor at Suffern High School that I remember him as. I'm here representing Coach Dick Weiss, now age 86, recently retired as the coach of Oklahoma State University, one of the top Division I teams in the country, and FDNY Battalion Chief Jim Moran, age 95. Both were unable to attend. They said it was going to be too late. Since its founding, Albertus Magnus had a 10-year history of quality county-wide cross-country. The 1971 team was the county champions in their first year that they were allowed into the PSAL. Dick Weiss arrived at Albertus in September of 1972. 5 of the top 7 members of that championship team had graduated. Albertus was left of a group of mostly freshmen and sophomores and senior Howie McNiff. Coach Weiss quickly showed that he could coach. Weiss guided Howie to what had never been done before, winning 3 state individual titles, cross-country, indoors, and outdoors. But now it was time to face the future and build a program. Coach Weiss saw something in this group. He believed that they could become one of the greatest teams in Rockland and state history. He recognized their potential and helped the boys to believe it. He convinced them that hard work, mental preparation, and many miles were the keys to success. There was the 600-mile summer, then the 800-mile summer, then the 1,000-mile summer. June to September, get the miles. 2-hour runs on Sunday and many, many hills. It paid off. The 73 season showed the promise. The boys took down a very good Suffern team, won the counties and sectionals, and finished 4th in the states with no seniors. Dick sent each team member a letter dated on June 12, 1974. He challenged each of them to reach the goal of being the greatest team in the United States, winning the Easterns, the states, and national titles. Now, an obstacle to these goals was 6 miles down Route 304, Nanuet High School. We would have to face them 4 or 5 times over the course of the season. You can't get to be a national or state champion if you can't get out of your own neighborhood. As time would tell, at the end of the season, Albertus would be ranked #1 in the state and Nanuet #2. The team would go 6-0 in dual meets. They won all 8 of the major invitationals they competed in. The 74 season finally got into the championship phase. The team won the county meet with 22 points, the lowest score in meet history. Next came the Easterns with top teams from the 7 states in the East Coast competing. Alberta scored 91, second place was 171. Nanuet was 4th and starting to get better. Then it was on to sectionals at Bear Mountain. Only the winning team advances to states. Everybody else stays home. Nanuet made it tough, but the Falcons won their 3rd sectional championship 30-52. The second best team in the state was going to stay home. Now, as in every high school sport, winning the state championship is the primary goal of the season. And on that day, the Long Red Line, as it became known, came to run. Coach Weiss had been a master motivator and an incredible recruiter. All 38, the team had grown to be 38 members. All 38 came to the meet. We had to run a car wash, so hired a bus and pay for the hotel rooms. The Falcons scored 27 points, the lowest total in New York State meet history. Albertus put 3 runners into the top 10. Senior Mike Colangelo, who was the Rockland County champ, won the individual state title, setting a new course record. Second place team was 76 points behind. 2 other runners in that top 10 happened to be from Nanuet. The final goal of the season was the national championship. Unlike today, where teams can travel to Oregon to participate head-to-head in the Nike Invitational, then it was not possible or allowed. So teams all over the country raced 2 miles on the track, added up their top 5 teams, and submitted them to Track and Field News magazine. Half a century ago, it took a month to get the results back. When they were published, Albertus had finished mere seconds behind a very good team from Illinois. They were the 2nd best team in the United States. It was disappointing, but it did not diminish all that the team had accomplished. Now, Long Red Line lived up to its name. Despite graduating 4 of these top seniors, Albertus would do something never done before by a Rockland County team. They came back and won the 1975 state championship, thanks to 3 juniors and our excellent JV team. Albertus had established a standard that may never be matched. It's already half a century since that day. They did it with hard work, a team-first attitude, and an inspirational coach. Lastly, we would remember our friends and teammates who we've lost over the years. Keith, Tom, John, Ed, Jim, and Shorty. This past year, we also lost our team mother, Mrs. Donna Weiss. Donna had a wonderful way of looking out for the boys and keeping Coach Weiss in check when it needed. On Sundays, we would meet at his house to come up with a plan for the week, and sometimes Dick would get a little riled up about things that were going on. Donna would come in and say, "Dial it down, Dick. The boys will be fine." And they were. I'd like to now introduce Jamie Kempton, one of our two-time state champion members of the team. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations to all the other inductees, Mr. Lynch, the Suffern Wrestling Team, and Mickey DeSimone. Mick was a Bucknell graduate, as I am, and to that I can only say, go Bison. For our Albertus team, this completes a trifecta. We were the first team inducted into the Albertus Magnus High School Hall of Fame, the first team inducted into the Rockland County Track and Field Hall of Fame. Some folks believe we should have been the first team inducted here, but I have no problem with this. It's an honor to be recognized at any time, and I accept with gratitude on behalf of the Albertus Magnus Cross Country Team. Our nickname was the Long Red Line. The only words on the front of the uniform were the line. Now that might sound presumptuous and obscure, but if people didn't know who we were before a race, they certainly found out soon enough, Albertus. Why Long Red Line? Well, as you can see, our uniforms were red, and we formed a line of runners stretching from the beginning of the pack all the way to the back. This was our identity, and we had to live up to it every day. Teams came gunning for us every weekend, but we met each and every challenge. We had a large team, almost 40 runners, including the freshmen, and it seemed like everybody had a nickname. There was Shorty and Rube, Fez and Turkey, Silent George and Will Gager, Gutless and Boop, Niff and Lenny, Dee and Muggsy, and many more. We were a close-knit group that pulled for each other. Our coach's philosophy was that each runner pushed the teammate ahead of them, from the slowest to the fastest, all the way up the chain, like a domino effect. We were also encouraged to group up and help each other out during the race. This group running had the effect of intimidating other teams on the course. Our coaches, Mr. Dick Weiss and his assistants, Ralph Coleman and Jim Moran Sr., they had us prepared every time we stepped up to the starting line. Our confidence stemmed from training sessions that we were sure nobody else was doing. Who else, for example, would be tackling the very steep Clausland Mountain hills, not once, but twice in the same workout? We ran up a lot of mountains, Clausland, Hook Mountain, Bear Mountain, even Tallman Mountain on occasion. Our mascot was a falcon, but we could very well have been a billy goat. We did other crazy workouts like running 25 repeat quarter miles around the track with barely a jog in between. The whole first half of the season, we ran 100 miles a week, and then the last half, we backed off to 85 miles a week. Nobody else was doing that, at least not on the high school level. Mr. Weiss was fond of reminding us that we had earned this enviable status as favorites, and we needed to live up to that billing. One of his pet expressions, one that he repeated often, was, "You can be the underdog or the upper dog. And gentlemen, make no mistake, we are the upper dog." In cross country, the varsity consists of 7 runners. Likewise, the JV also has 7 runners, as does the second JV, and so on. Out of all the things we accomplished that season, winning the states and the Easterns, setting the records for low point scores, getting the number 2 national ranking, out of all that, the thing that made Coach Weiss most proud was the day when we had a true, total team effort. And that happened one Saturday in mid-October at Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, where all the good teams ran. On that day, at the St. John's Invitational, we set the record for the fastest 21-man average time. 21, that's the varsity, plus the first JV, plus the second JV. When we got back to the locker room at Albertus and gathered around Coach Weiss, Coach had tears in his eyes as he described what we had just done. That day epitomized what the team meant to him and to us. We weren't just the varsity seven. We were a bunch of young men bound together by this common goal, the shared sacrifice, all mutually striving for that transcendent level of performance that our coaches and ourselves pursued with conviction. Coach Weiss wrote a letter to team members in the opening pages of a motivational booklet that he put together at the start of the season, our cherished Long Red Line book. In that letter, he closed with the following declaration: "There is no doubt our 1974 team has the potential to become the greatest high school cross-country team in the history of the United States," end quote. Did we fail in that mission? Maybe, but as Coach told us later, you guys gave it a hell of a run. We appreciated the support we got from the Alberta school community and from the parents and families of team members who came out to cheer us on at the meets. It's true we didn't get a lot of fanfare from the general public. There were no parades down Route 304 or anything like that. But we felt we did earn the respect of the cross-country community, modest as it may be. A night like tonight shows that our long-distance success has not been forgotten by the greater Rockland sports community, and it also proves the old adage that good things come to those who wait. As Ralph mentioned, we had several of our teammates pass away over the course of years. We'd like to dedicate this honor to our teammates who have left us all too soon, and that would include TM, Rube, Shorty, Eddie, Jimmy, and John. You guys were a big part of our success, and we couldn't have done what we did without you. We'd also like to thank the Hall of Fame board for remembering and recognizing the Long Red Line all these years later. Thank you.
Can we get your, we're going to give you a plaque.
Okay.
And not only that, you want to distribute these then?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, we're going to give a plaque to the team. So if you can get the teammates up here, please. Oh, wait a minute, that's wrestling. Yeah, that's you. Okay, sorry. Okay. Let's do this. You want to get all you guys together and you can...
We'll get together.
Yeah.
We'll have a team picture, is that the idea?
Yeah, we'll get a team picture here. I'll let you guys hear. And then you're going to distribute the plaque.
Yes.
Okay, good. Paper,
Do you want to hold this, Frank?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks. Thank you, Kevin.
Great job. That was great.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, Ralph, that was great.
I know.
I think we should run you for office.
Good job. I try to do the best I can.
That's what I just said. Everybody's too big.
Short guys in front, like me.
Both of you guys this way.
Thank you. Let's get the uniform. Let's get my uniform.
That's Jamie's uniform, of course.
Oh, he's got props. Yeah, of course.
All right, let's go in front.
There's no runners here anymore. Nobody runs here anymore. Yeah, I know.
Oh, man, don't put me in front of the microphone. Yeah.
At least hold it up. There you go. All right, who's last? Who, me? That was you. You're not that big. You're not that big. You're taller than you are. You shrunk. Can I be next to Jamie? You shrunk, Bill. You're not that tall. Come on, Tom. That's you, Michael.
Yeah, Jamie, you're important. I shrunk too.
All right.
Good? Good.
Ed Brown. Stephen Root. Steve Root.
I still have the distinct honor of being
Mike Colangelo. Brian Kelly. Brian. Congratulations. Tommy Leonard. Tommy. Mike Tietzel right there.
They turned this way.
Coach Coleman. Jamie Moran. Jamie right here.
And you were so tired.
And myself.
I did it.
I think that's everybody, Ralph. Oh, Tom Moran. Tom Moran, he's deceased, but for Jamie's taking his plaque. And that's
Let me
everybody.
take Boots.
What?
Let me take Eddie's. I'll get it to him. I'll get it to his brother John.
I don't have Eddie's. Gotta make one up. I don't have it. I didn't make one up for him.
Okay.
I can make one up.
You can wait.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. It can.
Jamie, any of these ones that you'll take these and then get?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to distribute them to our guys. So.
Yeah, but I thought Brandon would be here today, but I guess he couldn't make it.
Couldn't make it?
Yeah, we're gonna go up and so can you get that to the school?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
You let me know when you get it, and I'll get it to John Corrigan.
I'll make it. I just
I'll
didn't
get it
know
to
if
his
anybody
brother.
from the family was around, so I just.
His brother lives in South Carolina, but I'm in touch with him in Facebook all the time.
Okay, then I'll make one up and I'll get it to you, and you'll get it to them.
Let me just, you know what? This is your stuff. Former Hall of Famers. I want to recognize Phil Donnelly, who's here. Phil, great wrestler from Pearl River. And where's Tommy D? Where's Tommy D, our main man? Tommy D, man, wherever you are, man. All right, recognize Mr. Tommy D. All right, we want to get started here in the second half. One of the things that we'd like to do here, we're doing a charity event right now, and as is our custom in team inductions, we are raising funds for an organization founded in 2017 to honor the memory of Brandon Smith. The Brandon W. Smith Foundation was created in Brandon's memory, which contributes to causes within Rockland County community and beyond to raise awareness and fund services for young adults who suffer chronic illness and depression. I'd like to call up Kurt Lundgren, who will introduce Kenny and Christine Smith.
The Brandon W. Smith Foundation is something very near and dear to myself
Behind the
and
podium.
the other board members.
Behind the podium.
Thanks, Pete. And it seems like yesterday that we were bowling with Brandon Smith and at the New City Bowl. At that time, my kids were involved in bowling, in the bowling community. They bowled for Clarkstown. North and South are kind of merged. And one of the most outstanding bowlers youth bowlers to ever bowl was Brandon. And in that community, we were, and we still are, I think, fairly close. And unfortunately, Brandon passed, and it was a shock to all of us. And at that point, I think our bowling community got together, and we wanted to raise awareness because depression and chronic illness that may lead to death is something that unfortunately is all too common in today's society, and particularly near and dear to our community, but unfortunately it touches every community, not just in Rockland County. So we formed the Brandon W. Smith Foundation, and it's been going, 9 years now, and strong. We just had a great fundraiser back in August. And we have a committed board, and we have two wonderful people here, Kenny and Christine, Brandon's parents. And I think Brandon's memory lives on through our foundation. It keeps us going in terms of trying to contribute to our community. And I thank the Rockland County Sports Hall of Fame for thinking of us in terms of donating and contributing to our charity. And thank you all for being here. Of course, congratulations, by the way, to all the inductees here today. So I'm going to welcome Kenny Smith up to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Brandon was my son. Brandon was an incredible young man. He had such a talent for bowling that if he was around today, he'd definitely be a professional. We had great friends like Kurt. They formed the foundation, and we bring awareness to mental health illness. And I know the foundation being out, we have saved lives. And unfortunately, foundations like that only work on donations, and the donation today, we thank you so much. Thank you very much. And keep it rolling. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start the second half, and that would be for Mickey DeSimone. Mickey was an outstanding athlete at Suffern High School who went on to become an excellent wrestling coach, as witnessed by his 1996-97 wrestling team that we honor here this evening. Married to Sandra with 3 wonderful children, Mickey was an outstanding teacher and guidance counselor, well respected by his peers and the Rockland County sports community. I'd like to, Steve DeGanzik will provide introductory remarks, and Bill White will speak on behalf of Mickey as an athlete and coach, and we have Dan and Dave DeSimone family here to make remarks and to receive the trophy. So welcome, Steve.
I was lucky enough to work with a number of special coaches at Suffern High School. All right, we talk about guys like Joe Grasso, Bobby Valtiti, Guy Guccione, Billy White, John Orlando, Joe Biddy, and Tommy McTaggart, who are all inducted into our Hall of Fame. As John Wallach told me a couple of months ago, it's about time. Yes. It's too bad that we lost Mickey 10 years ago. And I don't know if there's an unwritten rule that we wait 10 years or whatever. But Mickey, you are a Hall of Famer. Mickey was the ultimate prankster. If you look that up in Webster's dictionary, you'll see Mickey's picture there. I was told a story about his boss, Skip Glunt. Skip goes to get in his car at the end of the day, and Mickey had placed a roadkill possum under his accelerator. Okay, Coach Consiglio, we have these big lockers at the men's phys ed office, 5 or 6 feet high, 24 inches wide and deep or whatever. Mickey puts one of his 90-pound wrestlers in there, all right? Good old Ralph opens the door and boom! The kid scares the crap out of Ralph. Okay, another time was Guy Guccione, our new principal, was only there a year or two. Mickey decided to go into the closet where the telephones are or whatever, and switches all the switches. So all of a sudden you try to call the nurse's office and you might get guidance. Try to call English, you might get history. Nobody could talk to anybody. It took the Fios guy or the Verizon guy a good half day or whatever to reconnect everything. So Mickey was a real prankster. I know Billy White might share with you some of the things that he did in high school, but I'll let Mr. White talk about that. All right, so again, I don't want to take any more time. I'd like Mr. White to come up and tell us a little about Mickey.
Evening. Nice to be here, and it's like old home week to me. I look around and see a lot of people that I've known, competed with, competed against, and so forth. But It's a blessing to be my age and have a hard time hearing, seeing, and talking at times perhaps, but we'll get through this somehow. First of all, I'd like to recognize the committee for what they've done in honoring the teams tonight, the individuals. It's a blessing that we have the county that we have. I think everybody in this room can appreciate the county for what it's done and what it's done for athletics. And for a small county, what we've achieved over the years. I mean, it's a blessing in all sports. And I mean it. I'm not talking about wrestling, cross country, all sports. We've had a great group of people and a lot of great memories on my behalf. So thank the committee for recognizing this group and the individuals here. Talking about Mickey, and I'm not a storyteller by any means, but the point is he's done some crazy things over the years, but and I'm not going to repeat it because other people will talk about it, but any coach that's successful has done some crazy things. And I just got talking to a young man from Suffern who was a wrestler, is now coaching in Newburgh, and I started my coaching career in Newburgh with some great people. And individuals at halftime would do some crazy things. So you got to be a bit nuts to be a coach, obviously, and especially a wrestling coach, because it's so demanding and so intense. As is cross country. I respect those sports. I'm a big team person, but I respect the individual sports for what people achieve because you got to work so hard. And we've been blessed, especially in our community. Wrestling has been a big part of my life. And I get a little emotional at times, but it's a tradition we've had there and the support that we've gotten. And I think about the individuals that who've been coaches at Suffern. And I talked to Jamie Kempton about it before. And wrestling has got one long tradition at Suffern. We're talking 85, 90 years. We've maybe had 6 or 7 coaches, and everybody is in some way related to each other, and not so much as a family, but the fact that I fortunately have had contact with almost every person except the first one back in the 40s. But George Fuse was my coach, and then after that, Guy Guccione, who was we were at Penn State together. He was 3 or 4 years ahead of me, a couple years ahead of me, and more successful than I was, but anyway. But the point is, he became the head coach of Suffern. When I left Penn State, I took the job in Newburgh, and then I was offered the job back at Suffern. I took it. Guy stepped down. I coached for a number of years, 19 years, whatever it was, and Mickey, and that's the reason we're here tonight. Mickey came over, and then after that, just quickly, Chris Mattiotti jumped in, and John Canty's been there. Now Paul Lubinitsky's there. All products of Suffern and the wrestling program. But And the thing, I'll get back to the county a little bit. The county at one time, especially in wrestling, we all cared for each other. We had great dual meets. I mean, we talk about crowds and competition. In the 80s and the 70s, I truly believe, and the coaches agree, the 70s and the 80s, the late 60s, into the 80s were probably the golden years of Rockland County athletics. And it's to be recognized for what it is, but it made the athletes to know each other. They competed against each other in a very hard way, but they also respected each other, and to this day, it's a family of Rockland County wrestlers. Getting to Mickey, as Ed tried to do initially, Mickey was actually a family member. He's a cousin of my wife, and as I said, by family, we're all family. These two guys over here are also cousins to my wife, the brothers and so forth. But we've been blessed with every individual that's run the program has added to it in many different ways. Whether building the program or intensity or doing the things that we did. But Mickey was a big part of that, obviously. Mickey learned his lessons. I can't tell you how well. Mickey started out in the Pee Wee program, wrestled for us on Saturday mornings. We didn't have a full elementary program until later on, but the point is, he was there. He wrestled up through the middle school, and then of course he competed in high school, and then went on to Bucknell. Am I being heard? Okay. But the thing about Mickey is Mickey was not blessed with a lot of athletic ability, as so many great athletes are. I'm not being negative about Mickey. He wasn't. He was small. He was slow. Okay. And he couldn't throw a football, and he couldn't catch a football. But here's a kid, because the true grit, weighing 125 pounds, was a starting safety as a sophomore in high school. And played football for 3 years. All right. As a wrestler, he started and was an athlete. And quite frankly, Mickey did not win a wrestling match for a couple of years, right, at the varsity level until his junior year, I believe, whatever it was, right? But he was a varsity wrestler because I would put him in the mat, right, because of his sheer determination and guaranteed to stay off his back, okay? Mickey would lose wrestle-offs in the room, and I would, and certain meets that we had, which were very competitive at the time, would have to save 2 or 3 points. I would pull a varsity kid off and put Mickey in the mat to stay off his back. And he did, believe me, he did, all right, for the most part. But, if you had to talk about Mick, I've got to use the word champ. And I'm going to say that, Mickey epitomized everything that particular word says if you break it down. And if you talk about the C for being challenged, Mickey was challenged by anything. He would work hard, was dedicated, right? And he just was challenged by every situation possible. And he got to be part of his coaching career too, all right? And we had a long standing. We competed against the best people in the state. We traveled all over, right? I took my teams to Pennsylvania, I took my teams to Virginia, took them over. Mickey expanded on that. Mickey took them to Florida, took them to California, right? Took them to Puerto Rico. Now, what's the competition in Puerto Rico? I could never figure that one out, but they went to Puerto Rico, all right? I know his wife was in Puerto Rico, and they believe it's but they went there, and they found somebody to wrestle for the most part, okay? But he went there. What I can't figure out is why he didn't go to Japan, Could have taken an international trip for the most part. But we look for the best competition possible, and Mickey himself always looked for the best competition. We go to tournaments, we go to place, we worked out with many teams in North Jersey, even in the county, summer programs, we were working out. Mickey would always be there. Mickey would just be challenged anybody he could, to the point that he learned wrestling the hard way by working and taking on the best. And it's, not concerned about winning and losing, just concerned about becoming a better wrestler. And he did that, all right? To the point that he may not have, I don't think he won the sections, did he, Dave? No, he didn't win the sections, but the point, he was competitive. But he got to that point where he's competing in the finals and the section itself. But he pushed himself to the point that in the summer we ran a federation tournaments in the state of New York. Mickey was competing in every tournament he could, all right? And he got to the point where he made the state team to go to Iowa, compete in a national high school tournament. And, competitive. He was competitive. All right? I'm not saying he won that much, but he was there, and he pushed hard. Getting back to the word champ and then the help, H being the help, he always looked for help, always looked for somebody to make him a better person, a better wrestler, and that was Mickey, right? The A gets to be adherence to the rules. It gets to be a little hard with Mickey at times, adherence to the rules. He did some things that were a little off the cuff, okay? And I'll not speak to that because it involved my kids a little bit, unfortunately, when he was coaching with me. So little things that he did, but he believed in discipline in the room. He believed in discipline in life, and so forth. All right, and the end was for maximum performance. Always maximizing what you could do, push yourself to be the best you can. All right, and the last thing is to pay the price. And Mickey paid the price in many, many ways. All right, so all these characteristics that he developed became obvious when he became a coach. All right. I really can't speak too much to what he did in the room because I wasn't there. Right? And quite honestly, when I retired from coaching in '88, I just backed away and didn't do much. And it was pretty much as Guy Guccione did with me. When Guy was coaching, I worked with him as assistant. He never got involved. He let me run the program the way I wanted to run it. And we did the same thing with Mickey. and it's obvious that they were very, very successful, and he learned his lessons well. Right? So, in short, Mickey was an outstanding person, an outstanding family member. He's dedicated to the sport in so many ways, and he just he lived life. Mickey loved life, loved people, and did some things that I can't address completely. But the point is, but also I got to tell you something. He worked me summertimes. I ran in summertime because being in education, you had summers off. But when I was younger, we needed the money, so I ran the pool in Sloatsburg for 40 years. And half these guys here, Andy Guccione, John Canty, other people, Mickey, all worked for me at the pool. So he would do some crazy things there, but it was just, I really can't say where it's kind of embarrassing, but we'll leave it at that for the most part. But suffice it to say that Mickey was an outstanding coach, deserving all the accolades that he get, deserving of a great life that he had. Unfortunately, as we said, left us too early, but he'll always be remembered, always be fond, and he was like a son to me. Thank you. I'm going to have Dave and Dan Desimone come up. They're going to speak about their brother for the most part, so if they would please. I want these two guys to talk. I want to talk a little bit. Okay. Dan, Dave.
Thank you, Bill.
Talk about your brother.
Somebody's going to give me something?
Yeah, we have a wonderful trophy here. But go ahead, you guys speak. You guys speak.
Just a short.
Yeah.
So I'm, for most of you, I'm Dave DeSimone, and I'm the older one, and the younger brother is over here, Dan. I want to say thank you to the committee for, acknowledging what Mickey provided and added to many people's lives. I also want to call out Chuck. He calls me every day now. It does, yeah. No, I've known Chuck for a long time. Even though I was in Suffern and he was up in North Rockland. But yeah, it got to the point where I think my girlfriend thought I was cheating on him. So I take the perspective, a lot of guys do sports, and this is a sports organization, but I felt that Mickey's real great contribution was after he finished his master's in guidance and came back and snagged a real good job back at the high school. I was able to, at that time, my job was had a lot to do with being in Rockland County, even though I lived in Westchester. I would just stop in at 1:30. I'd stop in at 11:30, and then sit with him in his room as he was bringing some students through. And he had such a way that he could diagnose, sort of recommend, and then encourage if there was someone having a problem. If not, he challenged them. So, good for coaching, good for that, but he impacted so many people just through that guidance job. One of them was, there was a kid on a team and he was frustrated. He says, I don't even think I'm going to get any playing time. And Mickey said, well, you're not really a good athlete. You're not very strong, you're not very quick, but you work hard. And coaches notice the work hard point. So if he says do 6, you do 8. All right, and if he says run a mile, you run a mile and a half. And that kid adapted that, and that became Mickey's mantra a lot, because he was a runner, and so if you needed to get in shape, you just keep adding on miles. So, but I think his guidance was what impacted me that I will remember him about most. So, that's it. Thank you. All right. Good.
I want to step back in a minute because I've got to do something that's long overdue. Bobby Valtini is a big part of everything in Suffern High School. He was my assistant for, well, we coached freshman football for a number of years, obviously, 15 or 20. Mickey was also a freshman coach. That's how we got our kids to wrestle, by the way. The freshman football team, if you didn't wrestle, you didn't play football. So, and then it went on from there, perhaps. But Bobby was with me, and Bobby was with me all the way. I mean, we just, I think Judy said at times, he was more married to me than he was her. But Judy Valentini, Judy, stand up, please, will you? And the daughter Sally. Sally's been. We lived on the same street in Suffolk on Lexington Ave, 5 houses apart, so we were always close together all the time. Dougie got to be arrested because we were wrestling on my front lawn. I would beat him up every time I could. But the point is, Bobby was very, very instrumental, very much Suffolk High School, much as Joe Grasso was at one time. And I've got to recognize all the support in many, many ways that he's given our program. He's deeply missed. We don't have the news media anymore. We don't have the paper, Jamie. Where's Jamie Kempton? You know, the paper's gone. Our local paper, we lost many years ago, and it's a big loss in the county because we had a big friend in the Journal News. Win or lose, they were always there. Kids got their recognition through the Journal News for the most part. The other person in the program is Johnny Wallach. Stand up, will you please? Now, John's not as old as me, but he's catching me. So, but he's been in the program. Did you wrestle for George? Yes. You wrestled for George Fuge. You wrestled for Guy Guccione. He went on to school, came back. He was in a program. He's been in a program ever since. He's probably the longest assistant coach in the state of New York. I got to believe it, working with their program. So, John, complete recognition. Thank you. And Bobby Ford, well, you guys get the recognition. Bobby was an assistant coach to me too. So the other guys that coached were my wrestlers, but Bobby was in our program, and he came here because of Mickey, right? He came back, and where's Billy? Where's Phil Donnelly? Phil Donnelly here? Right here. Okay. Did you wrestle, Bobby?
I lost to everyone I wrestled. Sorry.
He's younger. Billy Wilson.
Oh, yeah, the other person. Okay. But it, you know, that's the kind of respect we had. I really appreciate all the respect we've gotten. But Bobby was a big part of our program and a big part of Mickey's coaching career at Suffolk High School. And Billy Wilson, where's Billy Wilson? I'm taking a little time now that I have to. All right? He was an assistant coach back when Guy Guccione had 5 coaches: William White, William Wilson, Guy Guccione, William Wetzel, Stu Spetner, right? Oh, same first and last letters for the most part. But it's been a grand run that way for the most part. We've been very fortunate. I hope we can continue. And I think it's now time to present the plaque, isn't it?
Yes, trophy. Steve, get in.
Steve?
Yeah. Okay.
Get in front of it.
Okay.
Get a little closer.
Photographer in you. Thank you.
All right, I live in this.
Nice job, Bill.
One last person, Paul, stand up. Paul Lubaninsky. Paul's now the current coach of Suffolk. He's also part of our program. Listen to
All right, super.
All set? Good.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. That was great. Okay, now we're into the 1996-97 Suffern High School wrestling team. And I got to say, one of the things that we really love to do is the coordination of some of the things that we've done over the years. Here's a case where we're honoring the coach and the team, and we've also done this in the past as well. So we're always looking to coordinate and so on, and I think it's worked out really great. So one of the things that I wanted to point out, if you look at page 27 of the journal, Andy Gross was a Journal News reporter, and he summed up the team, this is the team, with flying colors. He called it the Suffering Pins Down Best Year, and that obviously is the case. They were RC PSAL champions with a 10-0 record with 5 Section 1 individual champions and 3 New York State winners. Alan Veltiti will make introductory remarks and turn it over to Andy Guccione, the Suffering Athletic Director, who will speak on behalf of the team and introduce the wrestlers. Without further ado, please welcome Alan.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, how do you follow Billy White? Hey. A couple of things while I'm up here. There's a couple of people sitting here. John Lorenzi's sitting over there. All right? Still doing it. Also, there's Larry Beckley over there. Somebody forgot to say hi to Larry. He's Albertus, but we kind of claim him in Nanuet. And then there's John Moyer. Who is it, 1964 Section 9 champion wrestling, Suffering? Great guy. Anyway, I have notes. And they tell me that this team, like no other, had 2 state champions on it. Actually, they accounted for 4 state champions. They had 3 Cole champions, 2 Fulton champions, a MacArthur 3 champions, Brandon 3 champions, Division I 13 champions, Section 1 11 champions. That's like 56 times a Suffering wrestler stood on the number 1 of the podium in 1 year. That's incredible. It's unheard of. They had 476 individual wrestling matches. They won 71% of those. That means if there was 10 matches, they won 7. Coaches would try to, and you know every wrestling coach would change. You know, you wrestle 130 pounds. Guess what? Tomorrow you're wrestling 123. We got to get you down because, like was explained to you about Mickey, you stay off your back. And maybe we'll get points. Well, guess what? Against this team, it didn't work. No matter what wrestling coach was going against Suffering, how many times they moved their people around, they still lost by 40 points. My God, unbelievable. So, last one of the night, you guys got me, but I'm giving you Andy Guccione.
Thank you. Okay, I want to thank Mr. White for staying with the game plan and keeping it brief. So, all the kind words about Mickey, about how unathletic he was, and but I will say, like Mr. White, for example, I worked at Salzburg Pool, Mr. White, as did a number of people in here, including Mickey Desimone. I learned a lot of valuable lessons from Mr. White. I learned how to water Mr. White's plants. I learned how to mow his lawn. I learned how to paint his front door. But I think the most valuable lesson I learned from Mr. White as I came into being an athletic director is to perform in a supervisory role at a workplace without actually being at the workplace to supervise anyone. And I thought that was a pretty good lesson that I learned from Mr. White going back to Salzburg Pool. So thank you. I was tasked with speaking in part for the assistant coaches because we have plaques up here, but Mr. White spoke very eloquently on each one, so I'm going to keep this very short. Our first plaque we have here goes to, he was a Section 1 champion. He wrestled for my father back in the 1960s. He's been an assistant coach since probably 1966, I believe. up until this day where you can still find him in the wrestling room helping out with practice. Please welcome John Wallach. Okay, our next assistant coach, if I could describe him one word, it would be heart. Billy Wilson is all heart. And for the guys that are in this room that wrestled for Billy Wilson, you know, when things were tough or Mickey or Fark were coming down hard on you and things aren't going well, he was the perfect guy to pull you aside and build you back up. He made you love the sport like no one else could, and he's still to this day an invaluable part of the program. Billy Wilson. Okay, our next assistant coach has already been spoken about as well, Bob Veltiti, founding father basically of the Suffern Sports Hall of Fame, a member of the Suffern Sports Hall of Fame, a member of the Rockland Sports Hall of Fame, big contributor for many, many years. If you've been involved in Rockland County sports for the last 30, 40 years, you know who Bob Veltiti is. He's on the mic at the George Fuge Pee Wee Wrestling tournaments. He's on the mic at the Section 1 wrestling tournaments. He's one of the most recognizable faces in Section 1 in the past 50 years. So we have a plaque here for Bob Veltiti. Could either Judy and or Doug come on up to get the plaque, please? My mistake, Sally Veltiti, his daughter, is also here. My apologies, Sally. Okay, and then our last plaque. So Coach Farquharson was nice enough to fly in from Colorado to be with us this weekend. We're excited that he came. Another one, very much like Coach Wilson, great at building everybody back up. Definitely a friendly face anytime you walk into the Suffern Wrestling Room or you go to the Cole tournament, even after he retired. He was always around. He was always supportive. Definitely somebody you felt you could lean on when you were going through a tough time. Also an outstanding technician in wrestling. Great with taking kids aside, kids like me, maybe kids that didn't have as much talent, and working with them to help them find a good way to succeed. And he was great like that. So Coach Bob Farquharson. Okay, on to the team. So I'm going to list out some names here, some that have already been mentioned. Sheffield, Fuge, Guccione, White, Desmond, Mattiotti, Canty, and now Paul Lublineski. This is the run of varsity wrestling coaches that goes back to the 1940s. With those coaches, going back to 1952 when the Section tournament began, Suffern Wrestling has accounted for 27 Section 1 titles. 52 Rockland County championships going back to 1943. So when you pick one team out from that, it just really speaks to how strong this team really must be, because it's just an unbelievable line of coaching, an unbelievable line of athletes, and really it's been an amazing thing to be a part of, I think, for all the people in this room that have been a part of it. And this team really epitomizes dominance. And I know Mr. Veltiti went over some stats. I'm not going to go over a whole lot, but I will say they had 7 first-team All-County. That was, I believe back then there were only 13 weight classes, so 7 county champs that had 13 weight classes. 3 second team All-County, 5 Section 1 champions. So 5 guys went to compete for the states. Now remember, if you follow wrestling now, you may know that we have a Division 1 and a Division 2. Back then it was 1 division, 50 teams. So that means that we had 5 section champs. They were the best in their weight out of 50 teams. Think about that. Very dominant. 3 all-state wrestlers, of course, the 2 state champions, Griff Powell, Chad Carrolls, and then Kyle Farrison, who finished 3rd. The Brandon, Florida thing. Okay, so they went down and they competed down in Brandon, Florida. They tried to get Brandon, Florida to wrestle us in a duel. Brandon, Florida was, quote unquote, #1 in the nation, and they declined the invitation. They didn't want to wrestle this team. You know, and again, just speaks to the reputation they had, the dominance they had, and just, you know, from a program that's had this kind of success, to pick this one out, you just know how good they really must have been. So now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to call each one when you get called. If you could just come up, Mr. Veltiti, you still with me? Okay, so their plaques are right here. Okay, so Mr. Veltiti will hand you your plaque, and then you'll just line up right here. Okay, so we have a line of you by the time we're done. As you come up, I'll say a couple words about each wrestler that's here. Okay, so first, this is alphabetical order. Mario Gomez. Mario was 2-time first team All-County, 2-time All-Section, and on a side note, his brother Brian, who's also here, was a 2-time All-State wrestler. But Mario Gomez, please. Okay, our next wrestler, Danny Horton. Danny Horton was also an all-section wrestler. In '97, he suffered an injury and wasn't able to complete the entire season, but had a heck of a career for suffering. He was, I believe, a sophomore in '97. All right? And senior year finished as an all-section wrestler. Jim Horton. Jim was an all-section wrestler. He was also an all-league football player, and he currently teaches and coaches football at Newburgh Academy. Put your hands together for Jim Horton. Chris Mason. Chris was a 3-time all-section wrestler. He was a 2-time Section 1 champion, and he was also an all-league football player. Chris Mason. Steve Pregiato. Steve was team captain of the '97 team. He was a section finalist, a 2-time first team All-County. In '97, Stephen was the most outstanding wrestler at the county tournament. He was also Journal News Scholar Athlete of the Week. And as a side note, Steve's brother Frank was also on this team, couldn't make it tonight. He was also a 2-time Section 1 champion. Steve Pregiato. James Ryan, also a team captain, 2-time All-County. He was a Section 1 champion in 1997. And as a side note, he's currently an athletic director of Port Chester School District in Westchester. Let's hear it for James Ryan. Doug Veltiti. Doug was a divisional champion. He was an all-section wrestler. He was also on the football team, a lineman of the year and captain of the football team. Doug Veltiti. Dave Visconti. Dave was an all-league wrestler and he was a Rockland County champion in 1997. Dave Visconti. Okay, so I did mention to these gentlemen, they actually gave me a couple things they wanted me to talk about. I wrote it down in a napkin and left it in the bathroom, so I'm not going to be saying some of those things. But I did want to give them an opportunity, but I guess we'll do a group picture first. Go ahead.
No, all right.
I'm the only one who could make way.
I'll make it.
I don't know, Chris looks pretty small.
Okay, now if I can have our wrestling coaches come up and take a picture with the gentleman.
There he is.
Coach Wilson, come on.
Hey, gentlemen, stay up for 1 minute. I think a couple of you wanted to say a few words. Am I correct in that? Maybe not. Oh, Coach Park is on.
I just want to say that this was a group we could take anywhere and wrestle anybody. And Andy mentioned the Brandon, Florida team. They currently have a win streak. Well, their win streak got broken. But they had a win streak of something like 482 dual meets in a row without getting beat. I know that well because the head coach was a teammate of mine. They wouldn't wrestle us at a tournament because of these guys. So, that tells you how impressive this was in wrestling. And they worked incredibly hard every day and pushed each other. We didn't really have to push them that hard. They pushed each other, so thank you.
You know, they talk about how, all our coaches were, hardworking, and I don't think they realize how much they had actually rubbed off on us as coaches as we move forward in our lives. We're constantly talking about old stories and reminiscing about good times. And like Coach said, it was a special team where we were all very competitive, no matter what we were doing. And we're all very good friends today. And from all of us to all of our coaches, I'd like to thank you for what you have provided us.
I just want to add one other part also. In typical Coach Des form, at the end of the sectional tournament, I was holding the sectional plaque. And I said to Coach, I said, what do you want me to do with this? He said, I don't know, take it home. So I took it home, and it's been sitting in my drawer for 20 years. So I have it here with us tonight, and I'm going to give it back to Gooch. So Gooch, maybe you can hang it up in the hallways of the school or something. Here's our plaque.
All right, congratulations again, gentlemen. Good job.
There's cake. Come on.
If you're the final, let them know there's cake outside.
Okay, back to Mr. Scheibner.
I have a plaque that we're going to give you to for the school. So, Gooch, this is a plaque for this particular team. So, congratulations to the team. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. You got it. All the way up.
Tell everybody there's cake.
All right, 1 second. Okay, just to wrap things up, I want to thank a number of people. I think it was quite a nice evening, to say the least. I want to thank Vinny Shortino, Chuck Mays, Bill Rupert, Russell Grant, Steve DeGanzik, Alan Veltiti, and John Ryan, of course, our treasurer, and all our other board members. A special thanks to Phyllis and Bruce Schweizer, who did an outstanding job on this journal, I gotta say. It's quite a wonderful piece of work. And I wanted to thank Tom Doherty. Where's Tom? You hiding over there, Tom? Tom, I want to thank you for what you've done in getting the word out to your friends, supporters, and so on. I want to also thank O'Grady's Castle at Blue Hill Golf Course for making this a memorable evening. So thank you so much. I much appreciate it.
One other thing, we heard a lot about Mickey's strength and determination and his hard work on the wrestling mat. One thing I'd like to bring up is about your football prowess. We had quite a rivalry between North Rockland and Suffern, the Suffern Mounties. They were really good. Well, Coach White said that Mickey was a real stalwart in the safety position. And, I witnessed that back in 1972 when we played. We were just pulling ahead, with the touchdown. And then the next time we got the ball back, we thought we would even go stronger and harder, and we probably would get another score under our belts. Well, as it turned out, Mickey wouldn't have any more of that. He was just very tenacious, as Coach White was saying. And I was running in the open field, and I thought, we're on our way to another score. And I went out and I saw this tenacious football player coming at me, and I tried to stiff arm him, and he did an arm drag on my arm and he took me down. But I have something here for Mickey DeSimone. This was, I was asked either Dave or Danny to come on out.
Let's get a picture. Let's get a picture. There you go. Turn it this way. All right, thank you.
Okay, once again, thank you so much. We have cake and coffee in the back here for everyone. So thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.